Hi everyone, Namaste. How are you all? I hope all of you very good and be safe, be protective. And yesterday we completed some intermolecular force of attractions in gaseous states of chapter. Now we'll continue that intermolecular forces. So intermolecular force are the force of attraction and repulsions between the interacting particles. Already we learned, and intermolecular forces are also called van der Waals forces. There are three types of van der Waals forces like London forces, dipole-dipole forces, and dipole-induced dipole forces. And the other intermolecular forces are ion dipole and ion induced dipole force also there. Now already I told that in dipole-dipole interactions there is a one special case, that is hydrogen bond. In this class we learn something about hydrogen bond. So hydrogen bond is a special case of dipole-dipole interactions. When the dipole-dipole interactions present in the atoms like fluorine, oxygen and nitrogen, and that dipole-dipole interactions we call hydrogen bond. So hydrogen bond is formed by atoms like fluorine, oxygen and nitrogen. Example, we are taking HF molecule. It is a hydrogen fluoride. In this hydrogen fluoride, there is a covalent bond between hydrogen and fluorine due to equal sharing of electrons. Even it is a covalent bond, but here the bond between two different atoms, one is the fluorine, which is highly electronegative due to its electronegativity, and it always pull bond pair electrons, and due to that fluorine will exhibit partial negative charge. Similarly, hydrogen will exhibit partial positive charge. Same thing will happen in another HF molecule. Here fluorine will exhibit partial negative, hydrogen will exhibit partial positive. And between these partial charges of fluorine and hydrogen, there is a formation of interactions. These interactions are called hydrogen bond. Hydrogen bond is a partial bond. It is represented with dotted line. So hydrogen bond always exists between atoms like fluorine, oxygen and nitrogen. Now here say this, in this hydrogen bond is present between two molecules. This is one HF molecule and this is another HF molecule. Similarly, we are taking another example. CH2OH single bond CH2OH. Its name is ethylene glycol. In this glycol molecule, there is a OH bond is there. Here also OH bond is there. So as I told, hydrogen bond is formed by electronegative elements like fluorine, oxygen and nitrogen. Here hydrogen is attached to oxygen. In this is also oxygen will exhibit partial negative, hydrogen will exhibit partial positive. Same like in this OH molecule, oxygen will exhibit partial negative, hydrogen will exhibit partial positive. So within this same molecule, there are two OH groups are there and formation of partial charges. Between this O minus and this H plus, formation of some partial interactions are possible. This is also called hydrogen bond. So hydrogen bond is formed by elements like fluorine, oxygen and nitrogen. In this HF molecule also hydrogen bond existing. In this glycol molecule also hydrogen bond is existing. But what is the difference in these two molecules? Here the bond is formed between two molecules. But here the bond is forming within the same molecule. So whenever bond is forming within the same molecule, that hydrogen bond is called intramolecular hydrogen bond. Similarly, if the hydrogen bond is formed between two molecules, and that hydrogen bond is called intermolecular hydrogen bond. So hydrogen bonds are classified to two types. One is intermolecular, another one is the intramolecular hydrogen bond. So inter means between two molecules, formation of hydrogen bond, Intra means within one molecule formation of hydrogen bond. So there are two types of hydrogen bonds are there. Now we are taking another example like water. In this H2O molecule, there is a two OH bonds are there and the oxygen is more electronegative. So due to this, oxygen will exhibit partial negative, hydrogen will exhibit partial positive. For this bond also, hydrogen will exhibit partial positive, oxygen will exhibit partial negative. Now see this, in this water molecule will attach to other water molecules through hydrogen bond. I am taking another water molecule here, another water molecule here, another water molecule here, and another water molecule here. Now see this partial negative of oxygen will form hydrogen bond with partial positive of hydrogen of other molecule. Same like this negative will form hydrogen bond with the partial positive of other water molecule. Similarly, this positive will form hydrogen bond with partial negative of the other molecule. It will also form hydrogen bond with partial negative of other molecule. So through hydrogen bond, one water molecules are attached to four other water molecules. So the number of hydrogen bonds formed by one water molecules is equal to 4. So this is the structure of water molecules. So this process of formation of hydrogen bonds by water to the other four water molecules is called association. So association of water. So this is the formation of hydrogen bond. One water molecule attached to four other water molecules. Now suppose if you are decreasing temperature, liquid can be converted to solid. So on solidification, there is a formation of strong intermolecular forces. Due to that, so this hydrogen will form hydrogen bond with this oxygen. This hydrogen will form hydrogen bond with this oxygen. So due to that, there is a formation of a cage-like structure in ice. So ice structure is always a porous or whole structure. Due to this whole structure, the density of ice will be lesser than the water. Hence, ice always float on the water. So whenever anyone is asking why ice always float on water, that is due to its porous structure. So ice has porous structure due to hydrogen bond. So because of hydrogen bond, the structure of ice is a porous structure, hence it will be float on water. So this is about hydrogen bond. So hydrogen bond is a special case of dipole-dipole interactions, that is mainly formed by three elements, mainly chlorine, oxygen and nitrogen. Whenever chlorine is attached to hydrogen or oxygen is attached to hydrogen, nitrogen is attached to hydrogen, there is a possibility of hydrogen bond. Due to this hydrogen bond, the structure of geometry like ice structure is changing. Similarly, some boiling point, melting point properties also will change. We will see one example also. So this is formation of hydrogen bond. The order of hydrogen bond strength. Since chlorine is more electronegative, FH is more stronger, after that OH, after that NH. It is the strength of hydrogen bond. The strength of hydrogen bond order will be FH, OH and NH. So hydrogen bonds are two types. One is intermolecular, another one is intramolecular. We'll see some other examples also. So this molecule is called orthonitrophenol. And this is the para-nitrophenol. So both are nitrophenols. One is at ortho position, another one is at para position. So as we know, there is a OH is there. So this OH can form hydrogen bond with this oxygen. Since here NO2 group is present at ortho position, it is very near to OH. So there is a formation of possibility of hydrogen bond. But when we are coming to para-nitrophenol, the position is a para position. It is a very large distance. So due to this large distance, hydrogen bond cannot form between this hydrogen and oxygen. However, this OH group can form hydrogen bond with other molecules, like example water. So with the other molecules, it can form hydrogen bond. So whenever it is forming hydrogen bond with the other molecule, then it is called intermolecular hydrogen bond. Why? Because the bond is between two molecules. So it is intermolecular. But here within one molecule, the bond is forming. That's why it is called intramolecular hydrogen bond. So orthonitrophenol is intramolecular, whereas para-nitrophenol is intermolecular. So both this orthonitrophenol and para-nitrophenol, that means intramolecular and intermolecular, can be separated by steam distillation. By steam distillation, we can separate inter and intramolecular hydrogen bonded compounds. So both inter and intramoleculars can be separated by using steam distillation. Why? Because here intermolecular compound does not combine with water because it is forming hydrogen bond by its own molecule. Whereas intermolecular hydrogen bond is soluble in water. So that's why when you are passing steam, so intermolecular will be steam soluble, whereas intra is steam volatile. So both can be separated by using steam distillation. Steam distillation mainly used to separate inter and intramolecular hydrogen bonded compounds. So note these examples. So this is about hydrogen bond. So the main use of hydrogen bond to determine the geometry of compounds, also to determine the boiling point or melting point. Say one example. Oxygen, sulfur, selenium, tellurium. These are the 16th group elements. When these are combining with hydrogen, oxygen will form H2O, sulfur will form H2S, selenium will form H2Se, tellurium will form H2Te. All these are the hydrides of 16th group molecules, 16th group elements. Water, hydrogen sulfide, hydrogen selenide, hydrogen telluride. Now, when we are comparing boiling points of these molecules, so boiling point is mainly depends on molecular weight. The molecular weight up to bottom increases. Sulfur is more than oxygen, selenium is more than sulfur, tellurium is more than selenium. So up to bottom molecular mass increases, hence boiling point also increases. So we expect water is a less boiling point since it has less molecular mass when compared with all. But however, this water will exhibit highest boiling point in this 16th group. Why? Because that is due to formation of hydrogen bond. So water can form hydrogen bond since it contains oxygen. But remaining sulfur, selenium, tellurium cannot form hydrogen bonds. They contains only dipole-dipole interactions. So due to strong hydrogen bond, even though the mass of water is less, but it exhibits highest boiling point among all these. So the order of highest boiling point will be water. After that, depends on molecular mass, H2Te will be highest. After that, H2Se, the least boiling point will be H2S. So this is order of boiling point in 16th group hydride compounds. So hydrogen bond is most useful in the determining of boiling points, also determining of the structure, like ICJ4 structure. Another one example, if you are taking carboxylic acid, like acetic acid, CH3COOH. If this acetic acid we are placed in benzene medium, it will undergo dimerization. So what is meant by dimerization means two acetic acid molecules converted to one dimer of acetic acid. So two molecules are converted to one molecule, that is also due to hydrogen bond. The hydrogen bond should be like this. So this is one molecule. So this is another molecule. Between these two molecules, formation of hydrogen bond. Due to hydrogen bonds, so both molecules will combine together, formation of one molecule, and this is called dimer. So dimer is a combination of two molecules, that is due to hydrogen bond. So carboxylic acids in benzene medium converted to dimers, that is also due to hydrogen bond. So this is about hydrogen bond. As I said in the last class, van der Waals forces are operative at a distance of r power 6. So van der Waals forces is inversely proportional to 6th power of distance between the particles. That means the distance between the particles is more than the r power 6. So van der Waals forces are negligible. Like that, hydrogen bond will be operative and it is inversely proportional to cube root of distance between the particles. So these are the hydrogen bond interactions are inversely proportional to cube root of distance between particles, whereas van der Waals interactions are inversely proportional to 6th power of distance between the particles. At the same time, the hydrogen bond is a strong bond when compared with all van der Waals interactions. It releases nearly 10 to 100 kilojoule energy per mole. Wherever hydrogen bonds are existing, the releasing energy must be 10 to 100 kilojoules per mole. This is about hydrogen bond. Hi everyone, Namaste. Yesterday we studied about the intermolecular forces in the chapter of states of matter. Now today we are starting an important gas laws. So there are number of gas laws are there in the states of matter. The first gas law is Boyle's law. So all these gas laws will explain the properties of gaseous particles. The first law is called Boyle's law. So what is Boyle's law states that, so according to this Boyle's law, at constant temperature, the volume of gas is inversely proportional to pressure. That is the statement of Boyle's law. At constant temperature, volume of a gas is inversely proportional to pressure. So volume of gas inversely proportional to pressure at constant temperature. Now when volume is inversely proportional, which means at a given temperature, suppose we are taking a cylinder which is fitted with piston. Inside we are taking a gaseous particles, and this gas we are placed at a constant temperature. Now when we are applying pressure, so gas will be compressed, the volume of the gas will be decreased. That means if pressure is increased, volume will be decreased. So both volume and pressure will be inversely proportional at a given constant temperature. So that law is called Boyle's law. Now volume is inversely proportional to pressure. That means if proportionality we are taking converted to equal, we get a constant divided by P. From this, PV is equal to constant. So PV is equal to constant is called Boyle's law formula. From this we can call P1 V1 is also equal to constant, and P2 V2 is also equal to constant. So therefore P1 V1 is equal to P2 V2. So it is the formula of Boyle's law which is used in the numerical calculations. When two pressures, one volume, or two volumes, one pressure is given, the second one we can determine by using Boyle's law formula. P1 V1 is equal to P2 V2. So Boyle's law says that volume is inversely proportional to pressure. If you draw a graph, pressure versus volume. So both pressure and volumes are inversely proportional. That's why it will give a negative hyperbola curve like this at a given temperature. Suppose the temperature will be T1. Suppose if you are increasing temperature, the curve will be like this, T2 and T3. Here T3 greater than T2 greater than T1. So this is the graph of the Boyle's law, pressure versus volume. Both are inversely proportional, will give a negative hyperbola. T3 greater than T2 greater than T1. Since these graphs are drawn at a constant temperature, so these are called isotherms. So we know iso means constant, therm means temperature. At constant temperature is we are taking, that's why these are called isotherm. We can also draw another graph. Pressure versus 1 by V, and it will give like this at constant temperature. So pressure versus V will be negative hyperbola, whereas pressure versus 1 by V will be a straight line with a positive slope. If we are taking at different temperatures, T3 greater than T2 greater than T1. So any graph we can say P versus 1 by V or P versus V. So this is the Boyle's law. Boyle's law simply says that pressure, volume both are inversely proportional. When pressure is increases, volume will be decreases. The formula will be PV is equal to constant, or P1 V1 is equal to P2 V2. So for this Boyle's law, PV is equal to constant, we can also use logarithmic equation. When we are applying logarithm on both sides, so this will become log PV is equal to log K. Log PV formula will be log P plus log V is equal to log K. From this, log P is equal to log K minus log V. So it can use as y is equal to mx plus equation, and when you are writing graph between log P versus log V, so sign will be negative, the slope will be negative like this. So this is log P versus log V graph. So any graph we can draw, P versus V or P versus 1 by V or log P versus log V. So all these are the Boyle's law graphs. Also we can use PV is equal to constant. So the product of pressure and volume is equal to constant. If you are drawing a graph between PV versus P, so pressure can be whatever, but the value of PV is always constant. So the graph will be like this. It is a constant value. So PV versus P is also called Boyle's law because PV is equal to constant. So this is the Boyle's law. So the second law is Charles law. Now what the Charles law states that, so at constant pressure, here pressure is constant, at constant pressure volume of a gas is directly proportional to temperature of the gas. So this is the Charles law. At constant pressure, volume of a gas is directly proportional to temperature. So volume is directly proportional to temperature. Here the constant is pressure. So volume is proportional to, we are converted to equal, then will become K into T. So from this, V by T is equal to constant. Therefore, V1 by T1 is equal to V2 by T2. So this is another important formula. When two volumes and one temperature is given, the second temperature can be determined, or two temperatures, one volume is given, the second volume can be determined by using Charles law equation. So Charles law represents the relation between temperature and volume. Charles law also stated that the volume of any gas at a given temperature is always equal to volume of gas at 0 temperature plus So when we know the volume of gas at 0 degrees Celsius, we can identify volume of any temperature by using this formula. Volume of a given temperature is equal to volume of gas at 0 Celsius into 1 plus temperature of given by 273, which means when the temperature is changed by 1 Celsius, the value of volume changed by 1 by 273. So this is given by Charles law. So when we are writing the graph of the Charles law, volume, temperature, both are directly proportional. So the graph will be like this. Here temperature we are taking in Kelvin and volume we are taking in liters. So with increasing of temperature, volume of the gas will be increases. Here the temperature will be 0, like here 100, 200, here 273, 373, like that. So the temperature of Kelvin will be 0, then the volume of gas will be 0, because volume directly proportional to temperature. If temperature is 0, volume is also will be 0. However, this is not a real, this is just hypothetical. So at which temperature the volume of gas will be 0, and that temperature is called absolute 0. The value of absolute 0 will be 0 Kelvin or minus 273 Celsius. So this temperature is called absolute 0. So absolute 0 is the temperature at which the volume of gas will be 0. Similarly, the temperature at which molecular, so the absolute 0 is the temperature at which molecular motions of all gases will be ceased. So however, it is not a real, it is actual. hypothetical condition, because the volume of a gas cannot be 0. But according to theory, at 0 Kelvin, volume of gas will be 0. So this is the Charles law, and this is the graph of the Charles law. And remember one thing, whenever the graph is given temperature versus volume, if the temperature present in Celsius, then the graph will not start from origin, because at 0 Celsius we cannot get 0 volume. If the temperature given in Kelvin, and it will be start from origin, because at 0 Kelvin volume is also 0, but at 0 Celsius volume cannot be 0. Why? Because 0 Celsius means 273 Kelvin, so there must be some volume. So this is the Kelvin temperature and this is the Celsius temperature. So the graph is taking place at constant pressure, that's why it is called isobar. However, if you are changing pressure, it will come like this. Suppose this is the P1, P2, P3. So temperature is more, pressure is more. So here P1 is greater than, P2 is greater than P3. So this is the graph of the Charles law. So the third one is, so pause the video and note down all graphs. The third law is Hamilton's law, which is also called Gay-Lussac law, or also called Charles law 2. So this is also again called Charles law 2 or Hamilton's law or Gay-Lussac law. And what is this law says that, so according to this Hamilton's law or Gay-Lussac law, at constant volume, the pressure is directly proportional to temperature. Here volume is constant and pressure and temperatures are variable. So pressure is directly proportional to temperature. From this, P is equal to K into T. From this, P by T is equal to K. That means P1 by T1 is equal to P2 by T2. So by using this formula, we can identify second pressure or second temperature when the remaining are given. So this is the Hamilton's law or Gay-Lussac law. Now when you are writing the graph, same like Charles law, that is the relation between pressure and temperature at constant volume. So both are directly proportional to temperature. So it will give graphs like this. So temperature must be in Kelvin. Here volume is constant. At V1, suppose this is the graph. At V2 this one, at V3 this one. So here V1 is greater than, V2 is greater than V3. So this is the graph of Charles law 2 or Hamilton's law, pressure temperature relationship. Since it is taking place at constant volume, then these are called isochores. So isochore is the graph of Hamilton's law, isobar is the graph of Charles law, isotherm is the graph of Boyle's law. Total 3 laws: Boyle's law, Charles law 2, that is also called Hamilton's law or Gay-Lussac law. Similarly, another fourth law is there. That fourth law, all we know that Avogadro law. All we know what is Avogadro's law. So according to Avogadro's law, at constant temperature and pressure, here both temperature and pressure constant and volume is directly proportional to number of molecules are also called moles. Here n is number of molecules or number of moles. So volume is directly proportional to number of moles at constant temperature and pressure. From this, V is equal to constant into N. So this constant is always equal to 22.4 liters at STP, standard temperature and pressure. When the temperature pressures are standard temperature, the volume will be 22.4 liters. That all we know. 1 mole of any gas will occupy 22.4 liter. Here N is the number of moles. If 1 mole is there, 22.4 is equal to 22.4. So that is the Avogadro's law. So total we learned 4 laws: Boyle's law, Charles' law 2 and Avogadro's law. If all these gas laws suppose we are combined, according to Boyle's law, volume is inversely proportional to pressure. According to Charles' law, volume is directly proportional to temperature. And also according to Avogadro's law, volume is directly proportional to number of molecules or number of moles. So by combining all this, we get volume is directly proportional to N, also directly proportional to T, but inversely proportional to T. So from this, volume is equal to one constant will come. That constant we are representing with letter R into NT by T. So from this, PV is equal to nRT, and this equation we called ideal gas equation. So what is meant by ideal gas equation means, so this equation will follow Boyle's law also, will follow Charles' law also, will follow Avogadro's law also. So all gas laws are combining, we are forming an ideal equation that is equal to PV is equal to nRT. P is equal to pressure of the gas, V is equal to volume of the gas, N is the number of moles, where R is the proportionality constant, T is the temperature. Here R is called universal gas constant. So PV is equal to nRT, where R is equal to PV by NT. Here R is called universal gas constant. The formula will be PV by NT. So on substituting standard values of pressure, volume, temperature and number of moles, the value of R we get 0.0822 or 21 something. Units are liter, atmosphere, Kelvin inverse, mole inverse. R 8.314 joules, Kelvin inverse, mole inverse. 1.98 calorie, Kelvin inverse, mole inverse. So number of values of R values are there. Important values are in liter atmosphere, the value will be 0.082, in joules 8.314, and calories 1.98. So these are the main important values of R. So R is called universal gas constant. Its values are. So this is total gas laws: Boyle's law, Charles' law 2 and Avogadro's law. And finally, by combining all these equations, we get ideal gas equation. So now we have completed gas laws: Boyle's law, Charles' law 2 and Avogadro's law. And also we derive the ideal gas equation by combining of all these gas laws. Now, so all these gas laws will explain the properties of gases like pressure and volume, both are inversely proportional. Temperature and volume, both are directly proportional. So based on all these gas laws, some assumptions made by number of scientists, not by one scientist. So number of scientists made some assumptions for gaseous particles. All these assumptions they are postulated in one theory. That theory is called kinetic theory of gases. Kinetic theory of gases. This theory have some assumptions which are made by number of scientists. So number of scientists proposed, not by one scientist. So like Boltzmann, Maxwell, like number of scientists proposed this assumptions of kinetic theory. So what are the assumptions? The first assumption of kinetic theory is, according to kinetic theory, all gases are made up of tiny particles which are called molecules. So if we are taking suppose a gas in a cylinder, so the kinetic theory says that the total gas is made up of molecules, and the molecules are very tiny particles. That means they are invisible particles. So that is the first point. All gases are made up of tiny particles called molecules. And what is the second point says by this kinetic theory? Since particles are very tiny, so the actual volume of particles will be negligible when compared with the total volume of the gas. Suppose this is the gas present in a container. If all these particles were compressing into this much, so these are the actual volume of the gas. The remaining total is the empty space. So by comparing with total volume of the gas, the actual volume of molecules can be neglected. So that is the second point. So the volume of particles or molecules are negligible. So that is the second point. The first point says that gas are made up of tiny particle and whose volume can be negligible by comparing with the total volume of the gas. So the volume of particles can be negligible. That is the second point. The third point says that between particles there is negligible interaction. So between the particle there is a negligible interaction. So that means in gaseous particles there is a very weak attraction that already we have seen in intermolecular forces. So gases containing weak intermolecular forces. But this kinetic theory says that these forces are very weak and these can be negligible. That means according to kinetic theory there is no force of interactions between the gaseous particles and there is no volume of the particles. These 2 points are most important. The first point says that the particles are very tiny whose volumes are negligible. The second point says that particles are very less attractive. That means the attractive forces can be negligible. And the next point says that all these particles move randomly in all directions in straight lines. So because of very weak interactions or negligible interactions, particles are move like randomly in a zigzag manner, and all these particles motion will be straight line motion. So this is the next point. So whenever particles are moving, so one particle can collide with the other particles, and collisions are given by next point. So particles exhibit two types of collision, that is particle collision and particle wall collision. So when we are gas placed in a container, so number of gas particles are there, and there is negligible interactions. So particles move randomly. One particle will collide with other particle. So this is called particle-particle collision. Similarly, particle also collide with wall of the container. So there are two types of collisions in the gaseous particles: particle-particle collision and particle-wall collisions. So this is the next point. So due to these collisions, actually the energy of the particles will be lost. But however, the average kinetic energy, when we are observing, the average kinetic energy is constant. That's why these collisions are called elastic collisions. The next point says that all collisions are elastic, that is no change in average kinetic energy. So all these are the assumptions made by number of scientists. So that theory is called kinetic theory of gases. What are the assumptions are? All gas particles are made up of, all gas are made up of small particles. These small particles we are calling as molecules. And the volume of these particles are very, very small, and these particles volumes can be negligible. Next point is, between these particles of gases, the very, very negligible interactions are there. That means interactions also negligible, volume of the particles also negligible. And the next point says that all particles move randomly in a zigzag manner and in a straight line. So particles, any direction it is moving, it may be x-axis, y-axis or z-axis, but it must be in straight line. So particles move straight lines in randomly. So because of this motion of random, all particles will collide with each other. So due to this collision, they exhibit some pressure. So whenever two particles are colliding, there is some force. So force by area we are calling as pressure. So the pressure is due to collisions. There are two types of collision. One is particle-particle collision. Another one is particle-wall collision. However, these collisions are elastic collisions. Elastic means no change in energy. So the average kinetic energy is constant. So for a particular molecule, energy can be changed, but the average energy is always constant. So because of average kinetic energy is constant, these collisions are called elastic collisions. So based on these assumptions, they proposed one gaseous equation that is called kinetic gas equation. So kinetic gas equation represented with PV is equal 1 by 3 mu square. So this is called kinetic gas equation, where P is equal to pressure, V is equal to volume, where M is equal to molar mass, and U is equal to RMS velocity. So what is RMS velocity? It is called root mean square velocity. What is root mean square velocity? We'll learn in the next class. So what we learn so far in this states of matter chapter is, in the last class we learn intermolecular forces. How many types of intermolecular forces are there? Which are strong force, which are weak force? All we learn. In this class we learn gaseous laws like Boyle's law, Charles' law, Avogadro's law, and also we learn kinetic theory. So all these are the properties of gases are made by assumptions of some scientists. These assumptions are given by theory is called kinetic theory. So based on this kinetic theory, kinetic gas equation is proposed. Kinetic gas equation PV is equal to 1 by 3 mu square. So it has some derivation is also there for this equation, but we don't need derivation. So directly you can remember this equation PV is equal to 1 by 3 mu square. So this is kinetic theory of gases.